Hey guys, it's been a while. Figured I'd do an update here. My life has been a little crazy as of late. My father passed away, and I've been having to take care of my mom and other things, and my free time and being able to do things has really declined. It's my father's bike there that I have no idea what to do with. But the Z is about to make some big progress here. The teaser videos I posted a while ago, they're about to become more clear as to why. I had a few people raise hell over that, but basically this car is going to get repainted. It's going to get some new body parts put on. Finally going to get rid of this rear bumper, which has been busted since my return trip through Texas. I actually have paracord now holding it together because the zip ties were just not up to snuff, and with the paracord the bumper actually is almost completely rigid. The engine is going to be swapped out. The current engine, there's nothing wrong with it per se, but it is getting up there in years. I mean, if you've watched the channel since I started these videos, I've had this car going on 10 years. The engine itself, I've got over 250,000 miles on it. It's due for a timing service again. That's part of the reason I'm not driving it as much and why it's in the garage here. I'm pretty much just driving it a couple days a week, and it was my daily driver until recently. So because the timing service is due, and given the fact it's going to cost me, a couple hundred in parts plus labor and whatnot, I simply cannot do the job myself. I don't have the time. Decided and found an engine that's been rebuilt, high compression VG30. So it's putting out an extra 100 or so horsepower at the flywheel, and about 60 to 70 extra at the wheel compared to this thing. So that's going to be a nice little upgrade there, and I still may turbo it in the future, single turbo. There's a company or a person now that is making a kit for it. So there's actually a single turbo kit for the non-turbo now. It's actually not that expensive. It's just no time plus no money plus blah blah blah. I can't remember, but if you notice, since the last video, I have replaced the wheels. These are Veristones versus the 350Z wheels I had on before. I did change out the brake rotors as well. Those were past due for replacement. The rears I still need to do, which I'm probably going to do when I swap the engine. Those rotors there, those rotors are at least 10 years old now, but we're 90% front, so I mean I've changed the brake pads on the rear once, but the rotors are just scored and they need replacing. Simple as that. Exhaust, probably not going to do anything to the exhaust. I've still got this Libre exhaust system on here. I am going to put test pipes on there and get rid of the OEM cat pipes because they are shot. I may end up changing these taillights here to J-Spec just so it matches the center panel here. This is just vinyl here over the third brake light. It's all faded, busted, and cracked up, so we did this, and from a distance it looks pretty good. Rear wiper motor took a shit on me, and I decided it wanted to start going the wrong direction. I don't even know how to explain it. It's like the gear inside just broke or something, so the wiper motor was going all the way down, and it actually scuffed up the hatch here pretty good. So took that off, and eventually I'll just delete that entirely. I'm trying to decide now. I have interior lights for the car, but the problem with interior lights is, especially on this car, if I put a rear traffic advisor in here, regardless pretty much where I mount it, it's going to block a good portion of my window. About 20-30% of the window is blocked by the traffic advisor. So that's an issue there. It's not terrible, but it you know, it makes it a little harder to see out the back. I thought about mounting it kind of to the cargo tray, the cargo cover there, which I also need to redo. The paint's completely gone. It's rusting again. But it sits too low, so I don't think that's going to work either. I thought about mounting it to where the hatch actually joins with the car, but I don't know about that either. And also my hatch is kind of not really busted, but this thing here, I've tried adjusting it. I've taken it out, put it back in. It's just not, it releases this, but it's not tight enough, so it doesn't pop up like it should, and I have to really work it to get the thing open. But the traffic advisor, thought about putting it right here, but there's not really anywhere to mount it except to the plastic itself, which may work. I mean, it's not that heavy. But then it's blocking the top portion of my window, and I don't really want to do that. And with the suction cups actually messed up my window tinting a good bit. The problem with mounting it on the window is the heat. The sun puts out, and the advisor is, the housing's metal. It's the same with the dash lights I had in here. The housing's metal. So they just soak up heat so much, and the suction cups get hot, they lose suction, it falls off. Not sure how to remedy that besides just mounting it directly to the surface. So my other thought is to get a light bar for the top. Of course, being said, this is a glass top, it's T-top, and a light bar was not designed to mount to this, and even I mean, it could work. I mean, like if I was to use the holes here, which were used for mounting the trim, this trim just completely came off. Just age, it came off. So instead of trying to mount it here, I just don't see it's going to work. I could be wrong, but that's a big expense. I mean, a top mounted light bar, we're talking $1,000, $2,000 here for a proper one. Not one of those cheap gimmicky light bars for a couple hundred that doesn't even go across the car, and it's tall as heck and doesn't put out any light. Just not going to work. So, being said, I'm kind of confused on what to do there, but the paint, I'm going to get this car repainted black and white, classic black and white colors. Hood and doors are going to be white, rest of the car is going to be black. And then I'm going to get a decal to stretch across the entire hood. I'm going to have to design it in Photoshop more than likely. I haven't seen anything even similar to what I'm thinking up in my head, but mostly it's going to be a blue flag. I think the tattered flag for a thin blue line. I currently have one on my hatch here. So similar to that, except all blue. And it's going to stretch across the hood. Another thing I'm trying to figure out is if I want it all one decal or one vinyl and have it applied across the hood, or actually have it segmented. I gotta talk to a vinyl shop about that. There's one here that does all the decals and vinyls for the police department, so they're actually the best one to ask about. There's some other minor things I'm going to do to the car. Like, all the bushings on the car are pretty much shot, except for ones I've replaced. This chassis is a 1990, so pretty much if I haven't replaced it, they're shot. My front upper control arms, they're damaged. Quite honestly, I took it for an alignment at Trax Tires. I'm not going to specify which one. But I took it for an alignment, and sure enough, they didn't install the lock collars correctly, or didn't tighten them down correctly when they finished aligning the camber. So what happened is when the suspension compressed, hitting a bump, it knocked the collars and just completely destroyed the Allen keys. So this one is a pain in the ass to get unlocked and adjust. Mechanic was able to do it, but we basically had to force the key into the hole, and it worked barely. The passenger side is completely broken. The threads are popped, so we forced the arm to rotate to try and adjust the camber, and it worked for about half a degree, and then it just started popping. So it's actually popped out of the T-joint right here, and so the arm has to be replaced. So with that being said, I'm going to go with the Z1, the new style control arms that Z1's put out. I'm aware there's some flaws with it, but there's some flaws with the Powertrix arms and pretty much any of the Midori style control arms. Nobody, even Nissan, didn't attribute the torsional strain when the suspension compresses. So if it's big enough, bulky enough, thick enough like the Powertrix arms, they can take the abuse, and generally they last a long time. I mean, the suspension I've had on this car, 8-9 years, somewhere in that ballpark. Everything still works and looks brand new, except for the control arms, which are damaged and or busted. But like the tension rods, the hem joints are fine. The bushing is fine. There's no noise, there's no play, there's no problems there. Rear upper control arms are fine. Traction rods are fine. I mean, they still look brand new like they were out of the box. The Chromalloy, no rust, no nothing. I've had people say that their Powertrix arms have rusted. I'm sorry, but I just don't see it. I mean, if it's defective, Charles will happily replace the arms. Pretty much no charge. He's a great guy, and I have nothing against Powertrix at all. My problems are strictly because somebody didn't know what they were doing and didn't install the collars correctly when they finished, and, well, caused me issues. Interior of the car, there's not really any issues with the interior per se. Now, I did have a slight problem with the dash here. So there's some plastic tabs actually in the dash right here, and the reason this is all loose is because of it. There's plastic tabs that hold the frame for the audio player, and those have completely broken off, and I can't exactly fix it because it is literally a part of this upper part. It's part of the dash itself. So outside of replacing the dash, I'm going to have to fabricate some kind of bracket, something to hold it in place, because right now, if it'll focus, you can see the bracket there is resting up against this oil bottle, which is keeping the CD player kind of supported, but it's kind of leaning to one side. So that needs to be fixed. That pod's fine. This pod is not fine. I've already replaced the pods on this car once, so I'm a little aggravated that this is even broken at all, but it is what it is. When you stiffen up the suspension on your car, it's gonna break some things, it's gonna rattle some things, and this is all just cheap formed plastic. It's not any high-grade material. There's no ABS plastic. It's not fiber reinforced. It's just cheap plastic. So when it breaks, it breaks. I had the same experience with the fog lights. The bumper flexing kept breaking the fog lights, so I quit putting fog lights on the car. I'd like this to go away if I have the time and money to do so. This interior in this car was blue. It was one of the rare colors. As you can see, the door panel is still blue. The bottom portion that's now damaged is still blue, but the previous owner, for whatever reason, ran this baby blue vinyl over it, and I don't know why. They did nothing else inside the car to accent that baby blue. I mean, they didn't have it continue down the bottom here. The dash actually has been replaced previously because this dash would have been blue and the dash in here is charcoal. So I took the blue center console out. This was broken, and I put this charcoal one in here. And a couple other things I replaced to charcoal, like the trim here, and the glove box is charcoal instead of blue, because all the blue was this tweed material, and honestly that's the best looking part that was left. Most of it was just stained, ruined, faded, what have you. Basically this here, this was supposed to be blue, and there's nothing left of it that's blue. The same with this handle over here, it should be like this. Right. Another thing, my lock actuators are broke, so that's going to be one thing I'm definitely fixing, especially if I'm going to be putting a bunch of electronics in the car. I need locks that work. Interior wise, I actually have an all blue interior that I bought that I've just never went and picked up and installed, so while the engine's out, I may just go ahead and do that, strip the blue interior out. I mean, it's sitting at my mechanic in Mobile, and that one's was it platinum blue or whatever. It was the light blue with blue interior. Mine was the dark blue with blue interior. But I got the entire interior minus the seats, because at the time my seats weren't bad. These seats were refinished when I bought them, but this one, I don't know, this one just started to crack all over and it's getting hard, and I can't explain that. I'm in a high humidity area that doesn't really get hot. Now if I was still in New Mexico I could understand it, but I mean, look at the seat. I wasn't there. So, you know, I still have the black cowhides that I originally intended to reupholster the car with, but after getting a couple quotes on that, I just kind of put that on back burner. The seats are going to be $200 to $300 each to have them reupholstered, not counting anything else I had redone in leather. So again, that's just back burner. Other small things, discovered that all this time I was trying to figure out what was wrong with the shifter. It's the bushing inside the shifter itself. It's plastic. Apparently they break, they wear out, and it causes this slop here that I have. I had no idea until someone informed me. But in any case, I'm probably going to put a Z1 shifter in here, get the Z-Speed bracket, because right now, if I took all this out, I just have a welded piece of metal across where the rubber went. So, I mean, it works, but it's probably what killed this bushing is the increased vibration from that. It also puts a bit of stress on the shifter itself, because the way this is this bracket bolts to the chassis, and your shifter connects to the bracket. The OEM style had the rubber there not only to absorb vibration, but allow this to go up and down and to move around as the transmission moved in the car. With this welded across and affixed to it, this can't move, so when the transmission moves, it pulls on the shifter. The Z-Speed bracket eliminates all of that because it bolts to the transmission itself and supports the shifter exactly where it needs to go. So if the transmission moves, it doesn't pull on the chassis or this area. So it's actually a really good innovation. I'm glad it came to the market. I'm trying to think of what other small stuff I'm going to be doing to the car, but the big thing is the engine's coming out. It's getting replaced. The clutch, I've got an ACT XT R6 unsprung 5-puck 630-pound clutch in here. It's been in the car 7 years, and with all honesty, it's not slipping, but I am getting some chatter from the throwout bearing. So I'm probably going to replace the clutch. I may just go with a new clutch disc from ACT and keep everything else. The other option was to go with a Specialty Z High 5. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. Just replacing the clutch disc is $150 versus, you know, $600 for the high five. Nothing against the high five. It's just I'm going to be dumping seven grand into this car in a short period of time. So 150 versus 500 is a good chunk. The master bushing kit for the car is like $200 or $300 at last check. Plus the rear brakes, which aren't going to be that much, probably $100 there, just for the rotors and pads. Paint job's going to be one of the more extensive and expensive mods, so there's the paint job. Oh, right, the bumper. So I was going to go with the Semtech Racing front air dam, and how that works is it uses the top portion right here of the OEM bumper, and you cut off the bottom lip, and then the air dam attaches to it. The air dam is kind of a splitter slash ramp for the air. It shoves the air up into the radiator, and overall it's very aggressive. It looks nice. However, Semtech, while they still sell it, it's custom order. You have to ask them for it. It's not even on their website anymore. The owner of the company told me that they're not shipping it anymore because the shipping companies changed how they handle heavy parts. So a $600 part would cost $600 to ship because it's, you know, front bumper. So they're not shipping it anymore due to cost. I mean, it'd be $1,200 for the bumper. And I don't think it's that much from any other vendor for a bumper, but all the others are plastic and fiberglass, and this one would be pure aluminum, so it's a bit heavier. At some point I want to put a functional wing on here, and I'm talking like a GT wing, no deck mount. It's going to be chassis mount. But that's off in the future. I was going to do it in combination with the air dam and the splitter, but now that's not a possibility unless I drive to Texas and pick it up. And I'm not going through Texas again. Fuck that. I don't know. Anyway, that's more or less the update for now. More to come soon. I'll try and take more videos as the car's being updated and as it's painted and everything, but for now, this is more or less just my weekend driver until the engine gets swapped out. I don't want to put too much stress on the timing components that are, well, they're due. And if you saw one of the last videos, the timing belt's been shaved because some genius, they didn't put the washer on wrong for the crank, or rather the gear on the oil pump. It wasn't the washer, which I thought it was. It was the lower timing cover is metal. They bent the timing cover up when they shoved it into place, because anyone that's ever done any work on the timing belt knows that that lower timing cover is a pain in the ass to get on. You have to twist it a certain way and tilt it, and it pops in place. Well, they didn't do that. They shoved it into place. It bent the metal up into the belt, and the belt actually tore through the metal. And then the metal at that point was cutting into the belt, and I'm missing about a quarter of my belt. So, and for whatever reason, white decals do not last on this car. I don't understand why. All my black decals, like this one from New Mexico, which I'm still banned from this website because they're assholes. These guys are cool. But these are from Albuquerque, and the decals are still perfectly fine. Anyway, that's it for now. If someone wants to buy a motorcycle, let me know. It's a Honda Shadow VLX 600. Has 15,000 miles on it. I mean, there's no scratches on the paint. There's no damage, no nothing. It's never been set down. Basically, my dad's health just got bad, and he couldn't drive it anymore, and it got parked. I mean, literally, handicap plate on a motorcycle. That happened. The only major problems is the carburetor is gummed up because it sat for so long. The ethanol fuel, it just gummed up the carb. So if you try to turn it over, fuel just pours out of the carburetor from the tank. It's an easy fix. Again, don't have time. The tires are, it's an '06. The tires are original. They're not dry rotted, but they are old, so those need to be replaced. And the battery, more than likely, is on its last legs. Anyway, interested in a motorcycle, let me know. Good condition, needs a little TLC, but no major problems. And I'll keep y'all updated as things progress here, but hopefully more soon.